And I'm going to go with Diane first. Your table first. Leanne?
Who's your question for? It's for Dan, the Merry Hill manager. And it was, what can you do, or what have you got any plans to do to help benefit the surrounding areas? Obviously, because we were concerned that Merry Hill does take away from Brierley Hill. So do you have any plans to help Brierley Hill in any way?
Yeah, we've given sort of a considerable amount of land over to the Metrolink to help bring that in and take that right the way through to Brierley Hill to High Street. And we believe the more we do at the centre, push forward for the waterfront, develop some of the sort of unused brownfield sites at the moment, that's going to help the area as a whole. If you go back 20 odd years to the Trafford Centre, I don't know if any of you have been to the Trafford Centre, but there wasn't really much there. It was just some wasteland. Well, 30 years now. Some wasteland next to the motorway. Trafford Centre was built, and a lot of other retail, a lot of other ancillary sort of hotels and what have you have been built around that area and making it a thriving area, not just a shopping centre known as the Trafford Rectangle. With ski slopes and event spaces. They're not owned by Into, but they've been a massive success. So, giving people a reason to come to the area and stay in the area.
Great, thank you. Okay, Francis, your table. It's Mike.
Who's your question for, Mike?
The first speaker. Heritage, yeah. It sort of links up on what Steve Smith said in his presentation. Brierley Hill is labelled as a heritage area, but this, according to Steve, prohibits businesses like Poundland modernising and refitting the buildings as it's so expensive. So they don't move into Brierley Hill or Dudley or wherever. What can be done to legislate against this? How can this square be circled?
Okay, so the heritage shouldn't stop regeneration. It should work with it. So the legislation isn't there to prevent businesses moving in and developing and helping to regenerate High Street. It's about protecting the quality of the High Street and improving the quality of the High Street, and the two should work together. I don't know if that's
Okay. Anything else to add? Was there any point? No? Pam, just a quick response.
Our question was really directed. Can you hear me on the 1 and 9s? Our question really was getting at Brierley Hill is so run down and appalling that we need to demolish some buildings. Is there any way that we can stop using the heritage areas? Can it not be taken down if necessary?
So the Brierley Hill High Street is a conservation area, but I think, as I was saying earlier, not every building in that high street is of high heritage value. So it's balancing that against the ones which are not, and maybe those would have to be replaced. So it's not a conservation area doesn't mean you can't do anything. Everything's heritage. You've got to jump through hoops for absolutely everything. It's balancing that up against actually the individual buildings and and having a good understanding about the quality or not of those individual buildings. And if those buildings have been a negative quality to the high street, then yes, why don't we look at something different and, see whether we can actually take it down and redevelop. And that's definitely on the cards, for every conservation area.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, next table. We've got Steve, I understand. Who's your question for, Steve?
My question's for Dan. It's a two-part question. It's to do with the Liverpool regeneration. How many years did it take to regenerate that rundown part of Liverpool? And what can Into offer to assist the regeneration of the two towns when the money is allocated?
I mean, we're more than happy to support in any way we can. But going back to Liverpool, the regeneration took about 5 to 8 to 9 years, probably. I mean, it's still going on. The whole area is still building and building. But you know, it took a big hit. To be fair, it's a bit like the city centre of Derby when Westfield built Derby. It wiped out all the retail around it, and so because there wasn't the capacity. But the days of retail, of shopping, I think, you know, with the online threat and what have you, we need to be smart about how we're spending our time and how we're using these spaces. And to take the point earlier about some of these, you know, historic buildings and what have you, you know, one of the things that we do if we have a difficult unit is we do something called white boxing, which is essentially we fit it out, we do the fire alarm, we do everything, and then the tenant has to go in and merchandise, and that's it. So maybe, and I don't know who the landlords are at Brierley Hill, but maybe getting people involved in that sort of thing. So these, you know, the sort of historic buildings, whether that can be some sort of reduction of business rates for them while they're doing it, I'd say that would probably be the answer.
Great, thanks, Dan. Coming over here. Who's your... Richard.
Thanks very much. So it was good to hear that Steve was talking about smaller towns, bringing your new ideas of shops. And actually that brings us on to the question for Dan. Surprise, surprise. And you kind of set yourself up there, coming in from Into. So we want to know, as Into has benefited greatly from the name and township of Brierley Hill, are there things you will do in the immediate and extended future to help small businesses and startups to revitalise Brierley Hill High Street?
We want to support the entire area. I mean, I think I mentioned earlier, we gave a huge swathe of land to Midland Metro free of charge so they could put the Metro link through it to link up Brierley Hill for the first time, really. We're also working with the council about the road networks to try and make it a bit freer. You know, we were discussing earlier, one of the issues is actually Brierley Hill is the traffic as well, so we're supporting that, making sure the transport routes are better. There's space in the marketplace for everybody, and you know, we want to support small businesses, startups, doing the deal with the universities we have. That again supports that. Looking at bringing more residential into the area, that supports all of those different businesses that we wouldn't necessarily have in the shopping centre. We might not have at the waterfront either, but you know, the sort of more community, your sort of butcher, candlestick maker sort of thing.
Great, thank you. Over to Francis' table. Oh, Michelle.
Questions for Dan.
I've never been this popular.
Sorry. Just a couple of questions from the table. One was, why do you keep classing Merry Hill as Dudley when it is Brierley Hill? It's not Dudley, is the one question. And the second kind of like question, suggestion is, rather than have Brierley Hill Town, have it as maybe Brierley Hill Old Town and Merry Hill as New Town, like they're doing a lot of like European countries and things like that. Could be a bit more appealing to people to come to the area. I'm not sure what you kind of think
I
of
mean, I
that.
think that in answer to your first question, we don't necessarily say Merry Hill in Dudley. It's just into Merry Hill. But yeah, the Brierley Hill sort of definition of the old town kind of works. It's quite a good idea, to be fair. Yeah, no, I think it's got legs.
Quite a lot of agreement around the room as well. I heard all, Okay, Pandora.
Hello. This one's for Steve. However, Liz and Dan might want to chip in if they hear something that they can answer. Steve, what's your single most important issue that's stopping you investing in the high streets, if you like? And also with that, is it is the rates that's your major thing, and will that be reduced? And who charges the rates? Who's your problem? Is it the council? Is it the landlords? We just need to know exactly what that is, because everybody wants to know: can they go and open the shop and open within the high street? What's the barriers? What's going to hold it up?
Okay. I think the barriers for the high street is, a bit going back to Poundland, rates, service charge, rent was all combined as one. Yeah. Rates, for me, I think is going to have to control. At least in the olden days, you got your bins emptied, you got your slabs and everything else, and policing and everything else. These days, it's very difficult because, I said, when I was looking at opening sandwich shops, I'd go where you need footfall, amount of footfall to pay that rent rate and service charge, and where a lot of people now was travelling to the bigger towns, I found it very hard for the smaller towns to pay because it costs the same amount, as I said, the same amount shop fit. A shop fit £100,000 is the same whether it's in Maryhill or Brierley Hill. So you'd always choose the bigger towns first. The bigger landlords, as Dan says, help you out. If they got a problem shop, they spend money doing the fire alarm and all these other amenities where you can't afford to do that, especially if you're a first-time trader. When we had the first shop, we actually opened the first Poundland in Burton-on-Trent, and that's mainly because the landlord there was struggling renting the Octagon Centre out, and he gave us £100,000 contribution to do the shop. Without that, Poundland wouldn't have started today.
Who controls the rates of the shops on the high street? Sorry.
Well, government.
Who controls the rates of the shops on the high street?
Well, the government set the rules for the rateable value, but over the years the rateable value have gone up and up and up. Yeah. And where landlords used to put the investment in the shops and we had nice property, they can't afford to do it these days. They are worried about covering the rates. Yeah. So sometimes you've seen a lot of charity shops open up because they get a small contribution rate reduction. Yes. It's difficult.
Liz, do you think that the council have got some say in that, will be able to help aid some of the startups, if you like?
It's part of the toolkit, as it were, for regenerating high streets, is definitely to support startups. We've got a colleague who's actually here today, and her role is to work with small businesses to find ways that we can help them to improve their business, basically, and that's a whole range of different things. And startups is one of those areas, and small pop-up businesses. And if we own units in high streets, then the council is better placed to be, if they're vacant, to be able to perhaps use those for, short-term leases or pop-ups or something.
Okay, and a lot of traders have actually gone into. Sorry, no, a lot of traders have actually gone into business like that, and then found that they've had to come out because the rates have gone up, if you like. And I know that it can be linked to footfall and everything else, but if the rate is fixed like that and it starts to go up, then it makes a difference between survival or not. So, just need some help there.
The rateable value is set for each town, and different zones, and I always find them behind resetting the new rates values. I just think they need to catch up a bit and reassess the rates, and that will generate a lot of business, and business will make money, which will pay the taxes.